Now then, we're going to do a nice tasty little medley for you. We've come to the point in time we'd like to do a number that was released. Oh, they know it. Might as well get on with it.
Ready to go and do this?
Yeah.
Queen is one of those rare bands that elicits extreme reactions from its peers. Loved by millions of fans and hailed as innovators by critics, they have also faced the ire of fellow musicians who, for reasons ranging from artistic differences to personal grudges, simply couldn't stand them.
Keep yourself alive.
It's a dynamic that adds a fascinating dimension to their legacy. How does a band that redefined rock provoke such visceral dislike among some of its contemporaries? The answer, as always, is tangled in personality clashes, clashing genres, and Freddie Mercury's unapologetic charisma. The 1970s were a golden era for rock, but they were also fiercely competitive. Amidst the leather jackets and bluesy riffs, Queen burst onto the scene with all the subtlety of a glitter cannon. Their sound was a flamboyant cocktail of opera, hard rock, and whatever else tickled their fancy. Their stage shows were grandiose spectacles, with Mercury strutting about like a theatrical ringmaster, commanding every eye in the room. This wasn't rock music as much as it was performance art. And for every fan enthralled by the spectacle, there was a rock purist muttering into their pint about pretentiousness. One of those purists was Steve Walsh, the enigmatic frontman of Kansas. Walsh was a man of immense talent, but also of unpredictable temperament.
I can hear them say, carry on my wayward child.
His feelings about Queen seemed as mercurial as the band's namesake. On one hand, he admired their musicianship and showmanship. On the other, he held a particular disdain for Mercury himself. Freddie was a complete asshole, he once said, a statement delivered with the kind of venom usually reserved for personal betrayals. The rest of the guys were great. Gay, not that there's anything wrong with that, but great. His jab at Mercury's sexuality was as transparent as it was unnecessary, revealing a discomfort with Mercury's unapologetic openness. Walsh's remarks paint a picture of someone who, whether out of pride or prejudice, struggled to reconcile the sheer audacity of Queen with his own artistic sensibilities. But if Walsh's critique felt tinged with personal animosity, Robert Smith of The Cure took a more categorical approach. Smith, known for his brooding lyricism and signature Gothic style, was unrelentingly dismissive of Queen. "I never liked Queen," he said. "I can honestly say I hated Queen and everything that they did."
I was part of a punk revolution that celebrated God Save the Queen and thought that the whole thing was going to come tumbling down anytime soon.
Coming from a man who built his career on emotional depth and introspection, his disdain for Queen's over-the-top theatrics might seem predictable, but there's also an odd irony in his stance. Both Smith and Mercury were, in their own ways, outsiders who challenged the norms of their time, where Mercury did it with sequins and soaring falsettos.
I hate this thing about people thinking, oh, well, we've heard a Queen album, let's go and see this, their stations and see if it sounds the same. I mean, I think by now, people who come to see our shows know that it's not going to be exactly the same. We don't want it to be. How boring if we reproduce note for note what was on the album. They might as well sit at home and listen to the album with a few visuals thrown in. I mean, I'd like them to come and see that it's a show, it's entertainment.
Smith did it with smeared eyeliner and melancholy riffs. Perhaps their methods were too divergent to find common ground, or perhaps Smith simply couldn't get past the spectacle to appreciate the substance.
Congratulations, The Cure Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees 2019. Are you as excited as I am?
By the sounds of it, no.
If Smith's critique seemed rooted in artistic differences, Paul Weller's was pure vitriol. Weller, whose work with the Jam epitomized gritty realism, had little patience for Mercury's flamboyant antics. He once took aim at Mercury's infamous declaration about bringing ballet to the working classes.
At that time we were getting a bit serious. Everybody is serious to a point, but after 10 years, you know, you've got to kind of ease off a little, and I personally just have a good time just fooling around on stage, you know. And that's why I'm not afraid to sort of fall flat on my face, because I mean, you know, coming up with some of the things I wear sort of over the top. I mean, they have an element of humor which I hope comes across. That's basically what it is now.
It's the kind of comment that feels less like criticism and more like a bitter refusal to engage with anything outside one's comfort zone. Weller's remarks underscore the cultural divide that often fueled disdain for Queen. To traditionalists like Weller, Mercury's audacious attempts to blend high art and rock were seen as pretentious stunts rather than genuine attempts at innovation. That Mercury refused to play by their rules only seemed to stoke their resentment further. Of course, no discussion of Queen's detractors would be complete without mentioning Sid Vicious. If Mercury was rock's flamboyant showman, Vicious was its snarling anarchist. The Sex Pistols embodied punk's rejection of everything Queen represented: polished performances, musical virtuosity, and a sense of theatricality that bordered on the operatic. The clash between the two couldn't have been more pronounced. During a chance encounter in a recording studio, Vicious, in typical form, decided to provoke. "Have you succeeded in bringing ballet to the masses yet?" he sneered. Mercury, never one to back down, replied with a quip of his own. "Aren't you Stanley Ferocious or something?" He shot back before physically escorting Vicious out.
I called Sid Vicious and I called him Simon Ferocious or something, and he didn't like it at all. I said, "What are you going to do about it?"
Fred went up and took him by the lapels and pushed him out the door.
It was a confrontation that epitomized the cultural clash of the era, with punk and glam rock locked in a battle for the soul of music. And then there's Liam Gallagher, a man whose opinions are as colourful as his vocabulary. Gallagher has never been one to mince words, and his thoughts on Queen are no exception. "Do I like Queen? Not really, no," he said, his tone as dismissive as ever. "I mean, I get Freddie Mercury has a great voice and all that, and obviously they've got some great songs, but I do find them a bit Queeny, whatever that means." It's clear Gallagher wasn't a fan of their theatrical style, but he didn't stop there. "Brian May's guitar sounds like he's got it clogged in his arse," he added, a crude jab at one of rock's most respected guitarists.
Brian May was
That
around.
would be a good
Brian May,
hookup.
no, Brian May, no,
Brian May.
I'm hiding from him because I've slagged him off. So if I do, if I do see him, I'll be putting my hood up and running off. Or
He's
blaming it on
badger.
our
He's gone badger man.
Yeah, well,
He's
exactly.
badger man.
I think you could take Brian May. I don't think you need to worry.
I know,
No, I've
but
heard Brian May's
tall.
really hard.
He's tall, man. He's tall. And I just can't be arsed with the hassle. So if I see him, I'll just blame it on our kid. Say it was our kid who slagged you off.
Yeah.
Gallagher's critique feels less like a considered opinion and more like a knee-jerk reaction, the kind of thing you'd expect from someone who prides himself on being the antithesis of anything remotely polished. What unites these criticisms is not just their intensity, but also their specificity. It wasn't just Queen's music that drew ire, but their entire ethos. Mercury's unapologetic flamboyance, the band's genre-defying approach, and their penchant for grandeur all seemed to strike a nerve. For some, like Walsh and Weller, it was personal. For others, like Smith and Vicious, it was ideological. And for Gallagher, it was probably just a matter of being, well, Liam Gallagher. But here's the thing. The very qualities that made Queen so divisive are the same ones that cemented their legacy. Their willingness to defy convention, to blend styles and push boundaries, made them icons. For every musician who dismissed them as pretentious or over the top, there were countless fans who saw them as trailblazers. Even their detractors, in their own way, contributed to the band's mystique. After all, nothing says you've made it quite like having your own critics. In the end, Queen's story is one of audacity. They dared to be different, and they did so unapologetically. Whether you loved them or loathed them, you couldn't ignore them, and maybe that's the greatest compliment of all.